All right, it is a new day, and that means it's a new project. So I think today what we're going to do is continue on with the organization of my workshop because it's still a disaster. Uh, Remember last week we built this cool little station for storage and everything, and made a mess of my workshop because it was already bad, but we made it even worse and just threw everything on this side of the room. You can tell that I moved that long storage unit and we now have space. So I need to fill that space with a new workbench because I have relegated my old workbench over here to be my new cut station. So it'll work out really well for that. It's 2 feet wide, 8 feet long. I've got all these tools underneath that have somewhere to live now. I can pull them out as needed. And if they're not needed, then I just have this extra workspace for cutting long stock. And it also gives me space to lay things out when I'm finishing, small objects and stuff, and they're just sitting there to dry. So I need to make a new workbench. Now, in thinking on what I wanted this workbench to be, I decided three things. So I want it to be fast to build. I don't want to spend all day building the thing. So this will be an afternoon project. I want it to be easy to build, so it's not going to be complicated with a lot of weird angle cuts and stuff like that. It's going to be square cuts, super easy, minimal tools. Like basic, you will be able to build this thing with a circular saw and a drill. I'm going to use some other tools because I have them, but you could still make this with a circular saw and a drill. And then lastly, I want it to be inexpensive. So with that in mind, as we're building this thing, keep those things in your mind. So fast, easy, and inexpensive. And then you can make improvements on it as you go along, or if it's something you decide, hey, I want to build this, but I want to change out the countertop to something else, kind of thing. So that's what we're going to do. If that sounds interesting, follow along. The other thing I needed to do is take care of an issue for me. And the issue is, where do I put that big job site saw? So it takes up a lot of space. I use it pretty frequently, so I don't want to put it away every time, but it's kind of in the way here, especially with when the fence is on it and stuff. It ends up being another spot where I throw stuff and it sits on it for a while. So it ends up being another workbench. So I think when I build my new workbench here, it will have an integrated space to have my saw. And I think I'm going to make that at the far end by the garage door, because that way it's out of the way. And then I have this space of, we'll say 2 feet reserved for the saw and 6 more feet up here for the workbench. And I don't need a huge 4-foot wide one for my normal work stuff. That 2-foot one worked very well, but I needed a little bit wider because non-work related stuff, I do need a little more space. So we're going to make this about 3 feet wide, 8 feet long overall. We're going to reserve 2 feet at the end for the job site saw, and come up with a cool way to make sure that that's level and doesn't move, and works out with the rest of the workbench as a through feed station. So once you cut stuff on the saw, that it's got the stock has somewhere to go. So with all that in mind, let's get some stuff and get going. Okay, I think we're good to go. I just got back from a box store, so we have supplies. Got a whole pile of studs. I got some leftovers from our last project, so I'm sure we'll be using some of those. Got my workbench cleared off here so we can cut some studs to length for our workbench. Cleared out the middle of the floor. Got some cheap OSB. It's like 15 bucks a sheet because we're working on one of those premises of cheap. And then I made a little doodle like I like to do. So that's basically what we're doing. We're just going to have a stair step down for where the saw is going to sit at the end. Got some measurements and stuff. And then I didn't show you this, but if you want to do a little update on your inexpensive workbench, I'm going to put casters on mine because I do need to move that bench around. So I got a couple sets of casters, sets of 4. So I think I'm going to put a set in the middle. So I'll have 6 and 2 extras. So I think we have what we need. So let's go hyperlapse, play some music, and chop up some wood. right, I think we're overdue for an update. So kind of here's where we are in the project. Well, backtrack a little bit. I reviewed some of the video, and so I just saw what you guys just saw, and I want to explain a couple things. So I first want to explain how I was attempting to put together the bench, and then why I abandoned that idea. And you see me kind of standing there and measuring things and kind of contemplating my life and everything. I was, because I made some errors here and there. So, in the spirit of making it fast, easy, and inexpensive, I'm going to point out some of my issues so that you can also find it fast and easy, because I'm having a couple struggles today. So, I'll share with you what my issues were, and so that you don't have the same issues. So, here's where we are with the structure. So, initially, how I wanted to build this was, you saw me build the corner pieces, and I pre-drilled and screwed those together. Then the other end, because we stepped down, those were shorter. That's why those were like 17 inches, and these are like 31 inches. So we put those together, and then my idea was I was going to make these boxes. So, the sides and the long part for the bottom, the middle, and then a smaller box for the top part. And then, hold up the corner and screw those boxes in one at a time. And you saw me use clamps kind of like this to hold things, because, I don't have 3 or 4 arms. I only have 2. So that makes it easier to have a third hand, just to put a block of wood for, those things to sit on. So it can sit level while you're screwing in the other side. So that's what I had in mind. You saw me struggle to put together the first one, just because leverage was not my friend, and I was using your standard Phillips head screws, and they were stripping out on me. So a few expletives, threw a few things around the room, stripped out screws, nothing heavy. So just changed, and you'll see that I changed from this orange bin, which has my regular Phillips screws in it, to something out of my bolt bin, which is these nice, these screws. So they're longer, so I can use them on the sides, but I can't use them for the whole project because they're just too long. And they have Torx heads on them. Those do not slip. Phillips heads, those slip all over, and you can tell that one's a little bit rounded out, and that will not stay in my bit up there. The other thing you saw probably in the building of it is me using 2 drills. This one is a countersink bit on it, so I would use that on the edges or the very ends of boards so that I wouldn't split out the board. I would definitely pre-drill those and then screw them in. I didn't use it everywhere because, pine or Douglas fir like this is pretty soft. But on ends, I definitely used it. So I think the issues I have with the construction, we're trying to do the box and stuff. So you notice when I went from doing the one box on the bottom and I went to the next level up, I put it in piece by piece. That went much smoother. So I'll probably do a compare contrast on this workbench as opposed to this workbench, because this one is a very simple design and went together very quickly. I'm having a couple issues with this, so I think I'm going to have some lessons learned, and so that I can share those with you, so you can not have as many issues that I have. So I always think that a successful project is sometimes everything goes well, but also you have some issues and you learn something. So the project's successful because you finished it up, but it's also you learned a lot from your mishaps or your errors or mistakes. So we're kind of at the point of the project where we just need to cut some more lumber, put the stringers in, and then we will work on putting our OSB up. So we got to have some countertop and shelves and stuff. right, you've only been working a short time, but I feel like it's update time again. So you saw me dismantling the workbench. That's not done yet. And then putting the shelf in and then putting stuff back together. So I could not get that bottom shelf in without pulling out a couple things. So I kind of knew that that might be an issue, which is why I didn't finish a lot of the other stuff. But I figured I could do the basic exterior frame and just put the stringers in as needed per level kind of thing. But that did not work. So had to remove the two end pieces on either side, and then it just slipped down and in. I was trying to wedge it in diagonally and everything, and that was not working. So before I got all frustrated, I started throwing stuff, which I don't do that much, just strip screws and stuff. We pulled those out, we got the bottom in, it's all screwed down. So now we're gonna work on the stringers for this next level, and then get that level installed. You will be happy to know that I just cut the next one on the floor. So much safer. I survived my first attempt. So not a very good way to do it, but it's tough when you're trying to do big things in a small shop, and you people that have the same situation, you know what I'm talking about. So unlevel floor, not enough space to lay things out properly, so everything becomes a workbench, and so it's just a pain. And not having a workbench to do anything in the first place is a pain, which is why we're building a workbench. So, but not typically for big stuff like this. So hopefully this is the last big thing I'm making in the shop for a while. The other stuff will be more organizational, things to help me out day to day, keep things organized. Everything has a place, so when I'm done with it, well, first of all, I know where it is, and then when I'm done with it, I know where to put it. So we're gonna work on the next level, but I just wanted to stop and make sure you guys kind of could figure out what I was doing, because it looked like I was doing stuff in reverse, and I was. So let's keep going. Okay, at the beginning of this video, I said we were gonna make a fast, easy, inexpensive bench. So that part's done. So let's take a look at that real quick. So we'll debate on how fast that was, because I did run into some issues, but we'll do some lessons learned at the end, and it'll be faster for you guys probably. Easy, relatively easy. It's 2x4 construction, no 45s or anything. Everything's just straight square cuts. Uh, Basic screws to screw everything together. We used inexpensive OSB for the top portions and the shelving. So pretty basic. Now, if you just wanted a workbench, you would just stop there and be done. Now, you'll notice that it's kind of short. And the reason that it's short is I plan on putting casters on it. If you don't plan on putting casters and keeping this on the inexpensive side of building a workbench, then you have made it a little bit taller. And you probably would have kept it off the ground like that. So add another 5 inches onto that. So most of my countertops are about 36 inches tall here. So this one that we just made is 31 because my casters are 5 inches. So the basic part of the workbench is done. 2 things left to do on this one for this video. We're gonna add the casters, so we're gonna flip this sucker over and put casters on it. We're gonna put 6 on there, set in the middle and a set on each end. And then we're gonna mount our work saw at the end of there and make some room in this space. So that'll be nice because, you know, getting to my tools is a little bit tough, especially like, you know, tripod there and everything else. So let's flip this over and put some casters on it. So made our workbench fast, easy, inexpensive. We'll discuss that at the end. But the other big thing that I wanted this bench to do is I wanted it to move, so I added the casters, so that's going to make it a little less expensive, so that costs some money. And then a little more complicated because I wanted to make this little shelf for this little bench part because I want to put my job saw on it. So the stand is great, great to throw it in your truck and move it around and stuff like that, but it doesn't move that much. It kind of sits there, so the base takes up a lot of space. So that was the idea of taking this and putting it at the end. So there's just 4 bolts. I already took them off. Okay. So that's basically where the saw is going to live. So it's obviously a little bit low. I knew that because I was going to come up with some way to adjust this saw height so that the output table was the same height or slightly lower than the saw. That way, cut something, it just slides right on here and use this as an output table. So let's work on that. Okay, so let me show you what I came up with to adjust the height on my table saw so that's equal with the output table. Made this little demo because it's going to be hard to see once I get under my table saw and drill holes and stuff like that. So basically, This is the countertop that it's sitting on. So I ran a carriage bolt through it. I will throw a nut on that and sandwich it with a big washer. So, particle board's not the best, sorry, OSB is not the best thing to deal with. So that'll give it a little bit more stability. And then I put two more nuts on there. And that way this nut and this washer, so this washer will hold the table saw. And this nut, I will be able to adjust the table up and down. And then the lower nut, you just tighten that up against this nut and it locks it in place. And then this right here will be where the base of the table saw is. It's all tubing, and that's how it would attach to the movable table and everything, or the stand. And then on top, I will have another washer and another nut. And then once this is all adjusted, we just tighten down the nut and it won't move. So that is the idea. You're not going to be able to see it because I'm going to need two hands to get under there and put all those nuts and bolts and stuff on. So that was the demo. Let me drill some holes and get that prepped, and I'll let you see what the end result is. All right, so let's do a wrap on this video. I've kind of worked on it long enough. It's supposed to be like a quick little one-day thing, which it was, but I was figuring a few hours, it blew the whole day. So, but we got it done. Little frustration there for a while. Lessons learned a bunch on how to build this thing, but we got it done. So let's take a quick look at it and kind of go over what we were trying to do with this workbench. So remember, we were trying to do fast, easy, and cheap. So those three things, I've already done that with this workbench. If you just need something to work on, this is really fast, really easy, and really cheap. It's a bunch of 2x4s, some screws, just square cuts, no angles, anything. One sheet of OSB cut in half, so it's half the sheet there, half the sheet there. No casters, anything fancy. So that is fast, easy, cheap, quintessential. So what I wanted to do was something fast, easy, and cheap for a different purpose. So as I changed what I needed and what I wanted, it wasn't as fast, it wasn't as easy, and it wasn't as cheap. So let's walk through all that stuff. So there is our finished workbench. The construction is a little more complicated than the other bench we had. It's a little larger. This is not half a sheet of OSB. It's 2/3 of a sheet or 3/4 of a sheet of OSB each. So it's 3 sheets of OSB, more studs, because we have a shelf here in the middle. And the reason we have the shelf is because I wanted a space to put the circular saw there at the end. Sorry, the table saw back at the end there. I also jacked up the price by adding rolling casters on there. It would have been cheaper just to extend the legs down to the floor like this guy has. So it was a little more expensive, took a little more time to make. We added a few little extra frills with that. We made it a little more complicated with dropping it down and adding the table saw there. We also made a way to adjust it. So that took a little time figuring that out. So there's 4 of those. It attacks directly to the bottom of the frame of the saw. It is super sturdy, and we can adjust it with the nuts up and down. So it's just basically a threaded rod up through there, or carriage bolts that will go all the way through this stud, and then same on the other side. I don't use the full 8 feet of my workbench anyway, so this was a good spot because this takes up way less room than what the original base of the saw had. So that's the base of the saw. It's meant to be portable and everything, but that sure took up a lot of room. Then you flip the legs down and they were kind of diagonal out. So the footprint for that thing is huge. So I will put that in storage in case I need it in the future. But hopefully you learned something from that. I think the big things for me as far as construction of the thing, use better screws. I hated those screws, so when I changed to the other ones, made my life much easier. And I think instead of making those corners first and then building the thing vertically and trying to make the boxes and stuff, I think I will make it similar to the last project we did. Make the sides, and well, here. We made each side, and then we made these kind of ladders in between, and then we assembled it by putting, these stretchers across the front and building it around that. So I would have done the same thing with this. I would have built a side, built the other side, and then attached it in between with just these little stretchers, the 2x4 stretchers there. I think that would have been much easier and would have had less frustrations and stuff. So lessons learned from that. But hopefully you enjoyed watching that build. I think we're going to revisit it because there's some stuff I still need to do on that. So need to get some power to it. Figure some easy way to do that. I need to deal with the dust that's going to blow through the table because the dust port for my saw is right back there. So it's just going to blow all the way down through there. So I think I want to put an elbow on that and bring it out to the side. Need to put some electrical there so I can have some hand tools that I can work there and for the table saw. Need to figure out some uses for the storage here, things that I'm going to use all the time. And then the other thing I also want to address is this guy that we made last week. So that's a whole lot of wasted space right there, and I think I could better utilize it. So we're going to figure some kind of storage for that. I have some ideas, but we'll see what we end up for that, and we'll see what we end up for this. So hopefully you enjoyed that build, watching me scramble and get irritated and whatever else. At least it wasn't you doing that, so you can watch me do that and then hopefully learn by it and then not make the same mistakes I did. So anyway, if you'd like, share, subscribe, I appreciate it. The last video did really well, so we picked up a bunch of subscribers, and a lot of people made some comments about it, gave me some advice on some sound issues and stuff I'm having, so we'll see how we do on this video. Hopefully you noticed, or I figured it out. If you noticed no difference at all, then I did not figure it out. But I like to make improvements and stuff on the videos and projects and stuff that I do. So anyway, thanks for popping in, and I will see you in the next video.